This session is Bitcoin Transaction Malleability, Theory and Practice. We're going to hear from Daniel Chechik and Ben Hayak.
Okay, nice to meet you all. I'm Ben Hayak.
And I'm Daniel Chachik.
And we are security researchers at TrustWave Spider Labs. We actually help protect people against 0 days and client-side threats. Today, we're going to show you not only what Bitcoin transaction malleability is, but how to actually do it yourselves in practice. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Bitcoin transaction malleability, let me just say that it was used to steal millions of dollars from stock exchange websites such as MTGOX and others.
Okay, we are going to give a quick overview on Bitcoin. We'll examine in depth how to place a transaction. We'll explain how and what is transaction malleability. And we will show how the money heist in MTGOX apparently happened. And finally, we'll present a live demo of the transaction malleability in practice. More than a year ago, when I first heard about Bitcoins, I was thinking that I finally found a way to get rich quickly. But when I looked at the price of Bitcoin, I realized that I kind of missed the train, because in the past several months, the price climbed rapidly from a few dollars to like $90, and there is no way that it will go even higher than that. Oh, well, I might was wrong about it, but there's no way that it will go even higher than that. So I decided to read a little bit about this mining, and I realized that if I use my computer to do mining, which I had no clue what it means, I might find some Bitcoins. Awesome. So 3 weeks later, I had 2 machines with 4 of the top graphic cards, 7970. I started to do mining. Well, after a while, as you can see, I didn't get rich. And those graphic cards are well stored in the original boxes, standing for sale on eBay. You know what? But Ben's story isn't funnier than mine, because his mining machine was actually his personal computer, standing in his room, working all night long, doing a terrible noise. I remember him coming to office, so tired, with big red eyes, crying that he couldn't sleep. He even bought earplugs, you know. But after a while, he also gave up with this mining stuff and stopped doing it. So as you can see, he also didn't get rich. But we both learned a lot about Bitcoins. The fact that we found the concept of Bitcoin very interesting. The fact that it's a peer-to-peer network, no company or organization controls it, and it can still function properly is amazing. Also, the fact that the number of Bitcoins is limited. There are like 22 million Bitcoins. And in order to have a wallet, you don't need an ID, so it's pretty much anonymous.
Well, we didn't really gather here to discuss the greatness of Bitcoin. We're actually here to explain this really extraordinary attack called Bitcoin transaction malleability. For you to understand this attack, let me first go over and explain the relevant components of the Bitcoin protocol. So one of the most important components in the Bitcoin protocol is a block. And a block is simply a container of transactions. If you want to read a certain transaction, you will have to access its block. Well, since it's a peer-to-peer network, every individual can simply send a new block, a fake block, to the network. But only the valid ones will get included in something we call a blockchain. And a blockchain is simply all the valid blocks chained together from the beginning of the currency up to today. Now, every block contains a hash of an older block as its previous block hash value. And that's what makes it a part of the blockchain. Yeah, and also in this peer-to-peer network, as long as the majority of the participants are honest, the blockchain could not get manipulated. So this is the block header structure. And the first thing that I will like to mention here is the magic number, which is simply a static value that represents the currency. Let's say the value that you see on the screen would be Bitcoin, but other values such as Litecoin or Feathercoin will have different magic numbers. And therefore, they can work simultaneously because of that fact. So the next thing is the block header, which is critical for the mining process, if you're familiar with mining, and we'll explain mining in a moment, okay? Finally, the transactions. As we said, a block is a container of transactions, so there's a list of transactions inside every block. So this is the block header structure. And before we go and explain the relevant parts in the block header structure, let me first stop here and answer a question that really bothered me personally when I first started in the Bitcoin business. So when I did so, I wanted to make money out of nothing, right? Like any of us. So I just knew that I need to start a certain mining program and watch some numbers, watch some brute force and hashes, and get coins, get money, get rich. And, well, it didn't work out that well, but I learned that these hashes I wonder where are they coming from. So these hashes were coming from the block header data. All of these data is being hashed to create many hashes in order to solve a block. And in order to use these data to make many, many hashes until you hit the correct one, there's a nonce value. And the nonce is simply a static number that you a random number actually, that you are changing in the mining efforts until you hit the correct one. And as we mentioned in the blockchain, the hash of the previous block, which places this block in the blockchain. So what is mining? Well, people are trying to transfer coins to one another on a daily basis, right? People just generate transactions. Let's say you are trying to transfer coins. Let's say this guy is trying to transfer coins to the rest of the audience. He's a really great guy, by the way. No, you know what? Let's say you are trying to transfer coins to us. Okay, please do. So that means that there are pending transactions on the network pretty much all the time. And we need someone or something to confirm these transactions. And that's where mining comes in. So every miner in the peer-to-peer network collects all of the pending transactions, store them in the memory, then it uses them to build a theoretical block. Then he used computing power in order to generate hashes from these blocks. And if the hashes are going to be lower than a certain target set by the current difficulty, then the individual miner will solve that block. And if that was the case, then he will broadcast this new block into the network. And two interesting facts will actually happen here. The first one is that all of the pending transactions inside that solved block would now get confirmed. And this guy will be really happy. And the second thing that will happen is that that particular miner that solves that block will be rewarded for his effort with 25 Bitcoin, as for today. So we know that the concept of mining may sound confusing to some of the people. And it's really hard to explain it in like a minute or so. So we decided to do it right now. On your chairs, or if you were lucky enough to collect them at our booth, there are supposed to be flyers. Everybody got flyers, right? Yeah, well, it's not going to get you any free drinks or anything, so. Yeah. But
so
on
what's the point?
Yeah. So on the back side of these flyers, there are hex numbers. Let's say these numbers are your hashes. Okay? So we want you to look at these numbers. really carefully, because we're about to expose our own hash in the presentation. And if your number is going to be lower than the number you're about to see, we want you to raise your hand, but do it really quickly, because only the first 2 people will win a prize. Okay, ready? Whoop. This guy, I see, and did you see who was third?
I think it was first, and I'm not sure who was.
I think that there was a guy back there and this guy.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so Daniel, please reward them with this worthless Bitcoin paper. Okay.
Here you go. And
Shai.
Get me the paper. Can I see the flyer? Oh, no, it's not the right one. Can I see? Yeah, this is one is good. Here you go. Awesome.
Well, we was just kidding, actually. These are pretty valuable. You can redeem them in our booth for a really cool prize. It's a Hubble watch. So, congratulations.
Okay, so after we saw how the mining process is a very important part of the Bitcoin network and also very profitable for the lucky winners, on a high-level perspective, the mining process is translated into some additional important goals in the Bitcoin network, besides the transaction confirmations. So, first, it keeps the network steady. As long as more participants running the Bitcoin client lower the chances that a single person or group of people will take control of the network. And second, it helps to store and keep the entire records of the blockchain, which makes the network much more reliable. So before we are going to talk about the interesting stuff, let's do a quick wrap-up. We have talked about a block, which is a container of transaction. We have also talked about the blockchain that holds the entire records of the Bitcoin network. And finally, the block solving process, which is used to keep the network steady and executing transactions from one wallet to another, which leads us to transactions. Transactions are basically the core of the Bitcoin currency, or any other currency, in fact. For now, there is no acceptable or formal way to physically trade with Bitcoins. It has to be done online. So let's take a look on a high level on the Bitcoin transaction process. Let's say Alice wants to give Bob 100 Bitcoins. So Alice's machine just generates a new block, a transaction, and broadcast it to the network. This transaction, along with other transactions, are collected by the miners and inserted into a block. And after a while, when the block is solved, the transaction is confirmed. I would like to mention that the screenshots that you're about to see are taken from an environment of a coin called MyCoin, which is used for the purpose of this presentation. We use the default Bitcoin client source code to compile MyCoin, which is functioning exactly like the regular Bitcoin client. Okay, so again, Alice wants to give Bob 100 Bitcoins. If we take a look on the Bitcoin client, we can see on the pay to field that I inserted Bob's wallet address, which is a nice representation of Bob's public key. Once I click OK, the transaction is going to be verified locally to ensure that I have enough funds in my account to commit the transaction. And then the Bitcoin client just generates the transaction and broadcast it across the network. If we take a look on the transaction history on the Bitcoin client, we can see on the status property that it says that the transaction is not confirmed yet. It says 0 confirmation. And it also says that the transaction has been broadcasted through a single node, since I had only one peer connected to my machine. At this point, the miners who want to solve the block and win the reward will query the peer to receive the relevant block that should be solved. Here, for example, is a tool that is used to doing the mining process, which is publicly available. The script executes hashes while changing the nonce every time, as Ben explained earlier, until it hits the correct hash that fits the current target. Here, for example, the correct block has been found. It says accepted, and it says, yay. Okay. So after the block is solved, the block is broadcasted to the network, and the transaction is confirmed, as you can see, and Bitcoins has been transferred from Alice to Bob. Okay. In our real finance world, we are used to transfer money from one to another by using cash or by using bank account, like transferring money from one account to another. But eventually, at the end of the day, I can count how much money I have, whether if it's in cash or in my bank account. Let's say I have this $5 bill. If Ben asks me from where I got it,
Where?
I can tell him anything. I can tell him that I found it on the street, or maybe I even found it at a casino, at the roulette table, okay? But he won't really have a way to verify my answer. In the Bitcoin world, it works differently. One person, or it might be more accurate to say one wallet address, doesn't hold its balance. It is simply calculated from all the previous transactions that related to the same wallet address, the incoming and the outgoing transactions. Because the money is not really being transferred from one wallet to another. Let's say that someone, let's call him Jeff, gave me 100 Bitcoins, okay? And now I want to give Ben 100 Bitcoins. So I will take a note and I will write, Jeff gave me, Daniel, 100 Bitcoins, okay? And I'm giving Ben 100 Bitcoins. And the same goes for every transaction that Ben will want to commit. So we can actually say that transactions are composed from two main components. The first one is the inputs, which is the proof that an individual has enough unspent coins to transfer. And the second one is outputs, which includes the addresses where to send the coins. This way, no one can spend coins unless he or she has them, because a reference to the previous valid transaction must be included in every transaction. In addition, it also disables the option of tricking the system by spending the same coins more than once, because once you have used a specific reference for a transaction, you won't be able to use the same reference again.
Thank you. Well, now that you have all the relevant information that you need to understand transaction malleability, we're finally about to explain it. So this is a really good time to wake up. So first, in order to simplify things, let's assume that we have a lottery company. Let's assume that actually we have a peer-to-peer network that is being used by this lottery company to inform people that they won a prize. Okay, prizes are nice, always. So the winner receives a message from the lottery company in a peer-to-peer network. And let's go over this message. First, we have a length, which is pretty simple, right? A length of the upcoming content. Then we have the content itself, which says that this message was coming from a lottery company and your prize is a car. Pretty cool. So then we have a length again and the identity of the winner. Let's say it was me, it was Ben. Okay? So this is a peer-to-peer network. So we cannot use these sensitive values like a car or identity of the winner. People can grab this message and change it. So we want to make sure that no one manipulated the content of this message. Let's say, for example, if someone changed the prize to his favorite summer vacation, Vegas. So in order to avoid such manipulation, we have to add something that will sign the sensitive parts. So that message includes a signature. Okay? And finally, to create an identifier for this message, so people can track this message, we use hash algorithm. And that creates a unique hash for this particular message. So once I get this message, because I'm the winner, once I get this message, I can go to the car company and say, hey, please give me my car. Well, the cashier over there will say, okay, let's validate this message. He will go and see that, okay, this is a lottery company that we are working with. Please give me your ID, and I will check it out. And he checks that I really am the winner of this message. So he will say, wait a moment, let me just write or save this hash of this unique message in our database so you cannot really use it again. And he marked it as already spent. So I cannot go and take another car. Okay. So do you guys see any flaw in this implementation? Do you see anything that can be changed or anything that can be done to hack or do something awful or win some more prizes? Well, let me help you. What if I can add or change anything that is not sensitive in this message? If I can do that, hashing this different data will have a different result. Will generate a different message ID, while the signature will stay completely valid because I added something that is not, sensitive. So if I can do that, then I can take my new car, drive to the car company, and say, "Hey, I want a car." And the cashier will say, he will watch me and watch my face. He will say, "Oh, yeah, you're familiar, but you know what? Let's check this message." And he will validate all the sensitive parts in this message and will say, "Okay, the signature is perfectly okay, but wait, I know what you're trying to do. Let's check our database for this message ID." And guess what? He won't see this message ID because I managed to change it. So now I have to figure out how to drive 2 cars back home. And I want 2 cars. So this is pretty much the concept. And these are my cars, by the way. So this is the concept of transaction malleability. You add or change something without breaking the signature, and therefore you abuse systems that tracks only the ID of this message. So, well, enough with the examples and stuff like that. Let's look at a real transaction. Okay, this is a real transaction that is being, this is a real transaction structure, actually, from the Bitcoin protocol. Okay? So, look at the structure and what was done in the transaction malleability. First, we have the length, which is represented by a single byte. That's really important. The length, this length is representing the script sig. Okay? And the script sig is opcodes in the Bitcoin protocol. And it's really not really relevant for the purpose of this presentation. But believe me, it includes the references that Daniel explained in transactions, which proves that you have the coins that you're willing to transfer, because there's no other way. So there are the references inside that. And there's the sender's address, the lottery address, to validate that what this message was really coming from a certain source. Okay? Next, we have the amount. This is a real transaction. Yeah? So we have the amount of how many Bitcoins or how many coins we're trying to transfer. Okay? And also we have the script pub key, which once again opcodes, but believe me, this is the winner's address or the target of this transaction. Who is going to get these coins? Okay, so finally, once again, exactly like the lottery company, to identify that message, we use hash algorithm. And that's just basically to create a unique value to these specific fields. Okay? But listen very carefully, because look what happens when we have a very long script sig, for example, if we have many, many references that we need to include in a legitimate transaction. Let's say I got these coins from Jeff, and I got some coins from Daniel, so I have many references. So in a legitimate way, I need more than just one byte to represent the size of the scriptsy. So the answer for that, in a legitimate way, is push data opcodes. If we add push data opcode to the Bitcoin protocol, that is actually doing an amazing thing. The next 2 bytes after that push data byte will represent the size, but now in 2 bytes. So there are three different push data. There's push data for itself, push data 2, and push data 4 for different sizes. So this is a legitimate way, and we'll see how they used it in transaction malleability to steal millions. Okay? Yeah, 2 bytes. So let's look at a practical example with numbers, right? Because we love it. So there is a 32 bytes long of a scriptsy. The size is 32 bytes. Okay, and we're willing to transfer from the lottery company, from anyone to anyone, 40 Bitcoins. That's a transaction. So in order to mutate this transaction, to use transaction malleability over this transaction, we add a prefix of a 4D opcode, which is push data 2, and add a suffix of a 0 byte. So we managed to add 2 different bytes to the original transaction without breaking the signature. There are many methods to do transaction malleability. This is one example. But as long as you don't break the signature, everything is fine. Okay, so the same size are now represented by 2 different bytes. So we didn't break the size as well, because 32 is exactly equal to 0032, just different amount of bytes. And that's actually transaction malleability technique. So we have the standard transaction versus the mutated one. And all that you need to see here is that down there you see different transaction IDs, and that means 2 cars, right? So we have 2 different transactions with the same amount of coins being transferred from the same source to the exact same destination. But one of them is mutated. So that creates a race condition between these 2. And we want to make sure that the mutated one wins this race condition. So there are techniques like sending too many peers, but you need to do to win this race condition. So apparently nothing bad really happened, because you managed to transfer 40 coins from one source to one destination, but as Daniel said, you cannot use the reference again. So the original transaction will be marked as already spent, and it will be rejected forever by the network. So it will not get into any block anymore. So to steal money using this technique, or to show you how it's done, how it was done in empty Gok to steal like $600 million as they claim, Danny will just explain how to do it.
Okay, awesome. So it's very interesting. And now we are going to see how empty Goks apparently fell for this trick. On February 10 this year, empty Goks published an announcement. They claimed that most of the Bitcoins were stolen due to a vulnerability in the Bitcoin protocol, which is the transaction malleability. Okay, so let's assume we have an attacker that wished to steal money from empty Goks website, okay? And this attacker has an account in empty Goks website. So far, so good. And the attacker wants to send money from his account in empty Goks to his personal wallet address. Empty Goks say no problem, because so far the operation is legit. Withdraw an amount of money from your account in empty Goks is fine to your personal wallet address, and they generate a fresh new transaction and broadcast it to the network. And they also save the transaction ID in their database, the one that is marked in yellow. Meanwhile, the attacker listens carefully to the network, to the peers in the network, and tries to grab this transaction as fast as he can. And then he performs the transaction malleability as like Ben explained. Now, as you can see, the transaction ID is different from the original one. The mutated is different from the original one. And then he tries as fast as he can to send this mutated transaction to the peers on the network that hopefully have not received the original transaction yet. If his scam was successful, his transaction is going to be inserted into the next block rather than the original one, meaning that now his wallet address is going to be rewarded with 30 Bitcoins. If we stop for a minute and take a look on this picture, everything looks fine. I mean, he just withdraw some Bitcoins from his account in MTGOX and send it to his personal wallet address. But if we look closely, we can see that the transaction ID is different, okay? The red against the yellow, meaning that the original transaction is now considered as invalid because the reference that has been used in the mutated transaction is also being used by the original one and cannot be used more than once. So it means that the original transaction is not going to be inserted not in the next block, not the other one, and not ever again. And it will remain unconfirmed. When MTGOX looked on this transaction ID, they see that something went wrong because the transaction is invalid, it's unconfirmed, and they believe that the coins were not delivered to the poor customer because according to their records, they see that the transaction was never occurred. And therefore, they generate completely new transaction and send another 30 Bitcoins to the attacker from their own personal wallet. And the attacker can do this process over and over again as long as he wants. And finally, the attacker is happy. Okay, now let's see how it actually we can do it in practice. So we're going to do a live demo, okay?
Can I go to the Caribbean too?
I'm not sure. Thank you.
So this and this part, you will see a live demo of an environment that we made for this presentation. And you heard us talking and explaining all this stuff, but you're now about to see how to actually do it and replicate what apparently happened to MTGOX when they had like this huge haste. In like $600 million were stolen, right? I mean, that's what they said. So we have, in this demo, we have 3 different computers, okay? Three different machines that we're about to use. The attacker's machine is a Macintosh, just remember that. And you can see that he has 0 MyCoins. MyCoins is just a coin that we created for the purpose of this presentation. And this is going to be the attacker's computer. Okay, this is the backend, the wallet of the company that we are attacking, the stock exchange company. We'll call it BDBox, okay? And now this is the third computer, which is completely independent. It's just like doing mining. And if you remember, mining helps us confirm transactions. So this will do only mining. So nothing complex. You don't need to watch these black screens and understand anything. So let's start. We have a website that holds our coins. Okay, we're logged in as Black Hat 2014. Okay, as the attacker. This is the name of the attacker. and we have available funds only 30 mycoins. Okay? So we'll go to our wallet and copy these the wallet address and put it right here. Then we are willing to withdraw all the mycoins that we have. Okay, 30. So once we click withdraw, the BDBox website, the stock exchange website, will generate a new transaction and will broadcast it to the entire network. Okay, so you can see there's now in our history, there's a pending transaction with 30 mycoins targeted to our wallet address. So we want to mutate this transaction. We want to steal money. Okay, so we take the transaction ID. Okay, and we use a client, a Bitcoin client, which is publicly available. Everybody can use it to grab the raw data of this transaction. And this transaction, this is the hex bytes. This is the binary that is behind all this transaction data. So for the purpose of this presentation, we'll do this part manually, but we made a tool for you, and you can do it completely automatically, but you just need to win a race condition and such. So we'll parse this manually so you can see how it's done. So the first part is the version. In every transaction, there's the version, and the next byte is going to be the number of incoming transactions. Okay, so we'll write it right there. Then there's the previous transaction hash. Just don't really, it's not really important right now, just parsing, okay, parse it correctly. Then we have the sequence. And this is where it starts to be interesting. 6B is the total length of all the script seeks in this particular transaction. Okay? So we copied the 6B, and we're going to do to follow a certain logic to do transaction malleability. The next byte is 48, which is the length of the upcoming script seek. If you remember that moving red part, then you will see that right here. So let's take the script seek itself that we are willing to mutate. Yeah, just do it really carefully. Okay, and the rest of the transaction. This is just the rest of the transaction, not really important. Okay, it's just the important part is to leave it untouched, so the signature won't break. Okay, so we'll follow this logic to do transaction malleability. First, we'll take the total length, the 6B. Okay, take it and put it right here in the logic that we prepared in advance. And you see +2 because we're about to add 2 bytes, but you'll see this in a minute. And we take the length of the script seek and put it between these values. 4D, if you remember, that's push data 2. That means that 48 now has 2 bytes. I mean, the next 2 bytes are going to represent the size of the script seek. So we add a 0 byte also to represent the same size, but with 2 different bytes. 48 or 0048. Take the original script seek, put it here, okay, and do the math, okay? 6B plus 2 equals 6D. So we just fixed the length so nothing will break because we added 2 bytes, okay? So now we'll take the relevant parts from the original transaction, just leave it untouched, and we paste the fixed size with 2 more bytes, 60. Then we paste the mutated script seek with push data 2 and everything. Remember, push data is legitimate, but we use it to make it to do bad things. Now we take the rest of the transaction, paste it untouched again, and you can see the only difference that we did is adding push data and representing it with 2 bytes instead of 1. So we managed to add something that is not sensitive. Okay? So we'll close the client now. And once again, the tool will do all these parts automatically. We just do it to make sure we win the race condition. Okay? And now we will use a script to send this transaction, to broadcast the mutated transaction to the entire network. The new version of our transaction. So there will be two different transactions with You're missing some bytes, I think. You have connection? Just a minute. So, well, we will eventually we'll have the same transaction. We just push data. Okay, that's all that we need to do. I think there is a connection problem. Yeah. Somebody told me earlier that if something goes wrong, blame Microsoft, but this is a Macintosh, so. Don't worry, that's the end of the presentation. Pretty soon. So we just want to show it to you.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, that was just a connection problem. The IP was wrong, I think. Okay, so just a reminder, we made transaction malleability over an original transaction. We added 4D and a 0 byte. That's all. Okay, so just look at the BD box. This is the original transaction. It's still pending. They don't see anything wrong here. It's refresh, still pending. The original transaction of 30 microns are being transferred. Okay, it's still pending. Nothing bad happened. So let's go and do some mining. So the mutated transaction will get confirmed. Any transactions will get confirmed. Anything that is included in the certain block that will be solved, all the pending transactions that this guy wanted to give you. So let's wait for the confirmation. And this is the part when we cannot control. Like when you're doing mining, you just brute force and you hope that you hit a certain target. Okay, so we got a first confirmation. That was pretty quick. And BD box needs to wait for two confirmations. So all we need to do now is wait for the second confirmation and see what happens. All right. So there's the second confirmation. Okay, let's see. Okay, we have 30 microns. Yeah, we have 30 microns. So, well, this is what we plan to do, right? We draw 30, so nothing wrong here, right? I don't know why you're clapping. I'm not sure, but yeah. But look at what happens. If we hit refresh, let's see what happens with the original transaction. Okay? Oh, you see it failed. So they think it failed. They track transaction ID and they think the transaction failed, but we actually got the coins already. So look at what they will do. They will say, okay, the poor customer didn't receive his coins. It failed because of the transaction ID. So they will regenerate a new transaction with 30 more bitcoins, my coins, sorry. Just hit another refresh. And voila, we have it. We have another pending transaction from BD Box targeted to our wallet. So there's another 30. And now we have to wait for mining so that this transaction will also get confirmed. But you know what will happen then next? We will have 60 MyCoins. Even though we only had 30 in their wallet, we managed to steal an extra 30. Don't try this at the casino. Any tricks like that will be very bad. Will end very bad for you because there's a serious security, guys. Not that I tried, but you know. So this is transaction malleability. Actually, it already happened. We're actually just waiting for a normal confirmation. So you can see the 60 MyCoins in our wallet. So we have to wait for the mining. Okay. So that's pretty much it. And you ready with that?
Maybe. Oh, still pending.
Just wait right here. So we hope that the mining was okay. Let's see. And there it is. There, that's it. You see two different transactions. One of them is failed, apparently, from their point of view. This is the transaction history in BD boxes, that represent what they see. But we have 60. Okay, we have 60 MyCoins. And you can see that there's 0 available funds because we used all the 30 that we had. We didn't have 60, but we used all the coins that we had, and we actually stole 30 MyCoins from them, for them.
Well, this was really cool.
Yeah, except for the
Except
network.
yeah, okay. So the transaction malleability, actually, vulnerability has existed for like a long time, 3 years ago, something like that. But only after the incident of empty GOX, the Bitcoin developers decided to release a patch that fixed this vulnerability, even though the real problem, as you just saw, are not related to the Bitcoin protocol, rather to the implementation. So let's take a look on the part of the code that fixed this vulnerability. Okay. The Bitcoin developers added a new function called eStandardTX, which is basically verifies the transaction format is according to their standard. It makes multiple verification that part of it related to the transaction malleability. Bless you. So if we'll take a look on the part of the code that handles the transaction malleability, we can see that from now on, every peer needs to check whether the push data opcode is included in the transaction that was not necessary. And if it does, it drops the transaction. If you look closely on the second if condition with the push data 2, we can see it checks whether the push data 2 is included in the transaction. And if it does, it also checks whether the length of the script sig is lower than $F. And if it does, it marks the transaction as invalid.
Well, it's a good thing that you remembered, right? Because people use this attack to steal millions of dollars, and then they remembered, okay, we need to do something. And they only fixed one technique, by the way. This is just one technique.
So actually, that's it, everyone. We're really happy that you came, and we had a great time, and we hope that you enjoyed as well. We wrote a tool that doing and simulate the entire process of the Bitcoin transaction malleability. You are welcome to do it on your own
personal environment,
personal environment Bitcoin network. And that's it. Here's our emails. We are going to be around at the conference, probably at the casino, the roulette table, something like that. But you are welcome to contact us, and we hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.